I want to say about Parsha Shavua. What's the teichen of our Parsha? What's our Parsha about? It's about two children and two parents. That's what it's about. It's about two children and about two parents. Two brothers and a father and a mother. And one of the parents favors one of the children, and the other one of the parents favors another one of the children. And one is right and one is wrong. You know that? In Hasidus, we never speak about the others that they make mistakes. B'chlal, big tzaddikim don't make mistakes. They make choices. They make choices. We make mistakes. You know what between a mistake and a choice? A mistake means you do something you didn't want to do. That's a mistake. You wanted to do a mitzvah, you didn't do it. That's a mistake. You wanted to not do Rahman Litzlan, Heipach Drasna the Eibishter, and you did it. That's a mistake. Tzaddikim don't make mistakes. Tzaddikim choose. Sometimes they choose what Kvayachal the Eibishter says, I'm not happy with the choice. But tzaddikim don't have mishaps. They don't do things wrong because they couldn't control themselves. Tzaddikim are balabatim over themselves. They made choices. Even on the Mechava, it says in Hasidus, they made a choice. We're paying for their choice, but it was a choice. So you don't say by the Avei Sa'elam mistakes. The only exception, and it's constant in the Maimorim, it says Banegeh to Yitzchok To'o. But Yitzchok, it's written, he made a mistake. This idea that Yitzchok thought that you could fix Aisav by himself, in all my Maimorim, it says in Teirei, it says in the Rebbe, all the Rabbeim use that expression, but he get to Yitzchak, he made a mistake. What was the mistake? So I'm giving you an idealized version, or as the Rebbe says in the Sichos often, Yaakov Aisav ha'amurim beParsha, not necessarily the Gashmi to Yaakov Aisav, but Yaakov Aisav ha'amurim beParsha. You have two kids, huh? One of them is exceptional in every way. But the nature of his exception, being distinctive and unique, is that he's extreme. Extreme. Everything is extreme. If he loves, till the end. If he judges, if he discriminates, if he criticizes, if he finds fault, till the end. Everything he does is extreme. And he's extraordinary, he's great, he's gigantic, he's very, very great. Yeah? The other one is not exceptional in the same way. You don't see in him extreme, not extreme love, huh? Aisav, Kayachol, had more kibbud aveim than Yaakov Avinu. Achmein. However you understand by Aisav Arasha kibbud aveim, but Aisav Arasha is distinct in the union of kibbud aveim. Extreme. Keitzad ma'asat amelech. There's different readings of that Rashi, but one of them is Pashat. Aisav was so frum. He wanted to know how you take Maisa from salt. He was sehr frum. Yaakov wasn't so frum. Salt mehechet Aisav. But Aisav was very frum. Very, very frum. What was Yaakov's character trait? What was Yaakov's inyan? Yaakov's inyan was that he was balanced. There was no ktsavis. In Yaakov there were no extremes. But the inyan of Yaakov Avinu was parity, to use an English word. Everything by him had a place and it was balanced. There was no extremes. In other words, to say it in fancy words which are more cliche than anything else, if you would meet Aisav and Yaakov in the most theoretical form, Aisav was greater than Yaakov. Yaakov was deeper than Aisav. You know, the Rebbe Marash, the Rebbe Rashab's father, had four sons. He had four sons. One of them passed away as a child. Two of them were giants. Two of the Rebbe Marash's children were giants. One was the Rebbe Rashab, he was a Rebbe. And the other was his older brother, Reb Zalmanaden, the Razor. He was not a Rebbe, but he could have been a Rebbe, said Gehasen, however you understand the Das Tachten and the Das Elyon. So there was a Chassid who said once to the Rebbe Marash, there was a Chassid of the Rebbe Marash, I think it says what his name was, but there's a Chassid who said to the Rebbe Marash, there was a Chassid of the Rebbe Marash, A besser kop der ältere. He told the Rebbe Marash Your older son is smarter than your younger son. That the Razah is smarter than the Rebbe Rashab. So the Rebbe Maharash said, he didn't say it wasn't true. He said, but a deeper mind the younger one has. He said to him, the aggressor the elder, the older son is brighter than the younger one. So he says, but the younger one is deeper than the older one. That's the story of our Parsha. That's the story Parsha told us. Yitzchak sees the incredible attributes of Aisav, at least in theory, in potential. And they were extreme. Every Maila and Midah that Aisav had was a ktsei, was extreme. Yaakov was Tiferes. Yaakov was, you didn't see anything extraordinary about him. What's the end of the story? The end of the story is Aisav is called Aisav HaRosha. Aisav is evil. Aisav becomes evil. He personifies, he embodies evil. And Yaakov is Yaakov Avinu. It says in Chassidus, based on a Zohar. It says in Chassidus, based on a Zohar. It says in Midrashim also, but the Zohar says it. And it's brought to Chassidus the name of the Zohar. Reisha de Aisav batfui de Yitzchak. It's a Lashon HaZohar. Reisha de Aisav batfui de Yitzchak. You have it in Maimorim, and you have it in Ayin Beis, and you have it in Fidik and Maimorim also. Reisha de Aisav batfui de Yitzchak means the head of Aisav lies beneath the feet of Yitzchak Avinu. And the Maimorim explain it. The Fidik has a Maimir, Matziyim Kippur, Tafshin Vav. You can look up the Maimir, you'll see it's one Pedic. And it's based on Hemshchaim Beis. That it says, so the first, you know the story, right? You know the story. Yaakov Avinu passes away, and Aisav HaRosha comes running and says, the spot is mine. They come to Maras HaMachpelah. And Aisav comes along and says, listen, Leah is laying there, your mother has the female spot, the male spot's mine. Two brothers, we inherited two spots. Your mother took one spot, I got the other spot. So Chushim ben Dan didn't think too much. He took an axe, a hatchet, whatever it was, and he chopped off Aisav HaRosha's head like you do to a Petach HaMeir. And the head of Aisav rolled at the Maras HaMachpelah and it landed at the feet of Yitzchak Avinu. And they convened a Bezdin. I don't know who sat on the Bezdin. And they paskened that they should not take it away. This is Midrashim. The Aisav's head is begashmius. It rolled the Maras HaMachpelah. It lays at the feet of Yitzchak Avinu. So the Zohar says, Eisha de Aisav batfui de Yitzchak. The head of Aisav HaRosha lies beneath the feet of Yitzchak Avinu. So it says in Chassidus, he describes it Pashat in psychological terms. He says, you start off as Yitzchak Avinu. Yitzchak Avinu is Gvuras Kedoshis, Kedosh Atzilus. Everything about him is, you know what I mean? The translation word Gvura in English. Gvura in English means exactitude. Exactitude. Everything is precise. There's no generalization. There's no dilution. There's no more or less. There's no basically. There's no altogether. There's exact. Every detail. It was exact. And in Yitzchak Avinu, this exactitude was holy. It was holy. It wasn't critical. It certainly wasn't evil. It was very precise. But it's so demanding. It's so demanding. It's so demanding. Yeah, in Chassidus it says that when Mashiach comes, the Ikar Midah is Gvura. The halacha is like Beis Shammai, and the Leviim are higher than Kohanim. Yeah, but now the halacha is like Beis Hillel, and Kohanim higher than Leviim, because now you need Chesed. Because you have Gvura, now the world's going to platz. You can't have it. It's unsustainable. You have to have Racham. You have to overlook. You have to have compassion. Yitzchak is exact. It says the Zohar, you start off with a tzaddik like Yitzchak, everything is exact. And then you have another tzaddik. The other tzaddik is also very, very exact. But he's very, very passionate about his exactitude. And he's a kanoi. He's a zealot. He's very, very defensive of the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the honor of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's always standing up to speak on behalf of what's holy and what's sacred and what's important, yeah? And then that guy has a son, he's also a zealot, yeah? But he enjoys his zealotry. He has fun. He likes to find fault in another and say, aha! I chapped you. He's a good guy. But he just enjoys, he has a little pleasure from seeing a fault by another person. God forbid you chap him, is a nishgut. But when he chaps somebody else, it's a machaya. That guy has a son whose whole pleasure was to criticize. It's his whole life. Find fault in another person. And that guy has a son who's a mean, vindictive, cruel person. And that's Aisav. And the Zohar says that there's a hishtalshalos. It takes a few steps. From Yitzchak Avinu to Aisav Arosh. Gvura. Aisav is an extremist. He starts out so extreme that his kibbut of aim knows no bounds. He starts out so extreme that his frumkeit is so extreme that he wants to know why you take ma'aseh from salt and from straw. You understand? But it ends up in Achzorius, in Midas Reis. If you know the Chassidus from the Kabbalah, it says that Chesed can have Ra. Know what the Ra of Chesed? The Ra of Chesed is Taiva. His Taiva is lust, is temptation, is weakness. Gevura can have Ra. The Ra of Gevura is called Gevuras Koshes. It's hard, it's severe, it's extreme because it's cruel. And it says in Kabbalah that the worst Chesed is not as bad as the worst Gevura. Because Chesed is sof kol sof, kind. And Gevura is rishis, you understand? So what's the Torah teaching us? The Torah is teaching us, the lesson that Parsha told us is that you cannot raise a child in an extreme way. Impossible. You raise a child in an extreme way, you create a Meshuggah. And ultimately he's evil. I have a story, I have a moidendika maise, and I heard the story from my father, who heard it from the father of the Baal HaMaise. This story is a piece of Jewish history. It really is. It's a piece of Jewish history with a lesson which is timeless. This story comes from me, and all the big darshanim and Lubavitch are telling it. And there's more than one story that comes from me. This one happens to be true also. This is the story. We had on our block on Crown Street between Troy and Schenectady, which is South Central Crown Heights. It's like the south side of Chicago. Family. One of the sons was not entirely healthy, and every morning there was 7 o'clock in the meeting. I remember every day in Yidam. The other son, I remember him. Every Shabbos, he would double park his car on the street. Crown Street was full of from Yidden, and he would wash his car. And he would come out dafke ungetan, mamish mit gonisht. I didn't understand as a child that he was doing it to spite us. He was trying to get us angry. I didn't relate. He was doing it to tzalochas. He wanted us to see him wash his car on Shabbos. He did it Midas Shabbos b'Shabbat for years. On the street, he would double park his car and wash his car. In Unterwesh, mamish. His father told my father, that this kid, this man, was a member of the movement that was called the Malachim. You ever heard of the Malachim? There was a Yid in America who was a very big chassid. And he created a movement of radicals. In the 20s and 30s in America, they had full beards. And they had a shita like the Talkach Sidim, Five in the world. In America. He was an incredibly powerful personality. He was an incredibly powerful man. And he had a following. They called Malachim. And their whole lineage was extreme. This boy was a teenager when the Frierdiker Rebbe visited America in 1929, 1930. He was a teenager when the Rebbe came in the first time. This says 90 years ago, not 80 years ago. This year's 80 years since the Rebbe came, 90 years ago. And the Rebbe had an apartment in Crown Heights. I think it was Henry Street. He took himself an apartment. And this Bacher came. He came to the Frierdiker Rebbe. It was a Farbrengen, it was a Tish. And there were a lot of people. And the Rebbe sees him in the crowd. And this man's father told my father, it's a emes and maise. The Rebbe sees him in the crowd, and he summons him, he beckons him. He comes over to the Rebbe, and you know what it means, a boy in America? A boy, a teenager with a beard? It was unheard of. You had to be so meshugeh. And the Rebbe says to him, Favos geist nicht mit kein tie. Why aren't you wearing a necktie? And by the way, this is not advocating that people should wear ties in 2019. In 1930, you had to wear a necktie. Favos geist nicht mit kein tie. Why aren't you wearing a tie, a necktie? So he gave the Rebbe a speech about being a Chassidish Bacher. Elam Hazeh. He told the Rebbe what he thought. Elam Hazeh, Gashmias, Chitzaynias, Klippe. And the Rebbe raised up his beard. He says, Du zest, ich gehe mit a tie. The Frierdiker Rebbe raised up his beard. You say, look, I'm also a religious Jew. Yeah, maybe not as firm as you, but I'm okay, yeah. I'm wearing a tie. That's the story. 50 years later, this kid was watching his car. Remember Yom Kippur, he would double park his car on Zen. Es haben wir lichtigen Ganeden, soll sicher der Eibischte Meuchel, ich meine der Eibischte Meuchel, der Eibischte darf sich allein Meuchel sein, für alle Zos, und jeden Mibbe gelebt. But what's the meaning of this story? The Rebbe said you have to be normal. Extreme is Aisav. It looks good. It looks very good. It's not normal. And it starts off with Kesad Ma'asa Melech Vasateven. It starts off with so much kibbut of aim that ain't kleinikait. You worried about your father more than anybody else, more than Yaakov Avinu. And it ends up in Gvuras Koshes of Aisav. And that's one of the most basic I mean encompassing messages of the Parsha. Rivka understood this. Rivka does their head. Yeah, you want to analyze Yitzchak. Yitzchak doesn't need our analysis. We shouldn't. I mean, Yitzchak's beseder. Don't worry about Yitzchak. He's okay. Yeah, but that's one of the stories of Pashas told us, that the Torah is teaching you. Vayigdelu anorim. We want to raise children. And I plan to say this. I really wanted to speak about this here. Here. Whenever you sit with Anash, with Chassidim, we want to raise Chassidish, Yiddish kinder. And it's tough. It's very, very hard. And it's not only hard mi bachutz, it's hard mi bias. I mean, you guys live in Chicago. I don't want to, you're not allowed to say a nice thing about a person because you're going to bring out a lot of Lashon Hara. You don't know how good you have it here. Anash in Chicago, you don't know how good you have it here. You're so fortunate to live in this community. I'm not going to say anymore because I don't want to be gay to Lashon Hara. But I'm an observer. I come from outside and I've been in many kilos of Anash in America and all over the world. If I had to choose where to live, I would choose Chicago. Or Pittsburgh, but Chicago. What did you do to make it? I should move to Chicago. But okay, but it's tough. Chinuch is tough, even in Chicago. You know why? Because mibachutz is babayis. You see, in the olden days, there was mibachutz and babayis. There was outside and inside. The problem is the outside is inside. The outside is inside. The mechitzes, the walls, the separated charedim from Elam Hazed, those walls are full of holes. It's not just holes because we let the holes in, but because they're inside already. They're inside already. They're inside our minds. They're inside our hearts. It's a very difficult time. It's a very, very difficult time to be a Chassidish Yid and to have it right. To be a radical, to be extremist, to go around hating everybody is gavaldik. That's Aisav. It starts out Kedusha. It's not Avodas Hashem. It's not L'shanas Tema Mideis, L'shanas Nezabativim, it's Mitzias. It's called Chassidus Murgish, which is an exotic word for Yeshes, as holy as it is. It's tough. And we're parents, and we have children to raise. You must understand that at the base of Chinuch, a home, and the truth is a school also, but it's particularly a home. Above all else, it has to be a normal place. Now, normal doesn't sound very holy. Normal sounds very passive. It sounds very dilute. It sounds like a little of this, a little of that, and it's exactly what it is. A home is a normal place. Kids do not grow up in a yeshiva dormitory. There's a reason why. Yeshiva dormitory is good when you're a bocher, and even then they have to be weaned from the yeshiva dormitory to learn how to be husbands and fathers. It's a ganze spiel. And now the girls go to these holy seminaries. They also have to be weaned from extremism. I'm not saying it's not good, but they have to be weaned. A home has to be a normal environment. Parents have to understand that, the Rebbe said once to a Yid, a big expert in Chinuch, I think it was maybe Rabbi Twersky or somebody like very prominent mechanech. The Rebbe said, Chinuch is like somebody who's hunting game. When you hunt game, you don't shoot your arrow where the animal is. You shoot the arrow where the animal will be when the arrow arrives. If you shoot the bullet where the animal's going to run. You anticipate in what direction the animal's going to go when he hears the sound, And you shoot the arrow where the animal is going to be when the arrow is going to reach him. Chinuch is not about today. It's not. Chinuch is not about how my child looks now. Chinuch is how my child is going to look in 10 years from now, and 20 years from now, and 30 years from now, and 40 years from now. And it's a fact. Parsha's told us. The entire Parsha, from beginning to the end, teaches this lesson. You want it, Hashem's help. And it's tough. Chinuch is very, very, very hard. And you have to have two parents who are on the same page, who talk to each other all the time, and constantly are thinking about their children, not worrying, not hyperventilating, not becoming extreme, but paying attention to little things. Everybody knows this. You have a small problem, if you solve it, you don't have a big one. And when you have a small problem and you leave it alone and say it's not so bad, then it reaches a point that you can't do anything. It requires constant tending and care and so on and so forth. But at the base of it all is normal. You communicate, to say it in Ruchnische terms, Judaism is not, as Maris Friedman says, it's not a religion, it's a way of life. Judaism is not things that you do, it's what you are. Kids don't get that from extremes. They don't get that from radicalism. They get that from normalcy. A Yiddish house is a peaceful, normal place where Gashmias is part of Avodas Hashem. And as I tell some of my more radical students, wasting time with family is a big mitzvah. It's wasting time. I can be learning Torah. I can be Makarev Nachayidin. This is the message of Parsha. To our Parsha. Parsha's told us. Tells the story of two children who grew up in the same home. They had different personalities. One of them was exceptional in every way. And the other one was normal. That's why it was normal. Now, Yaakov Avinu wasn't exactly normal. Yaakov Avinu, he doesn't take the aid. Yaakov Avinu was called Baal Olam Ha'atzilus. You understand? I am Baal 437 Sterling Street. Yeah, with the bank and the mortgage. Yeah, Yaakov Avinu was Baal. Yaakov Avinu is no Poshet Mensch. But what was outstanding? What did you see when you saw Yaakov Avinu? You saw a normal person. A person whose identity was not expressed in loudness and extreme, not this extreme, not this extreme. There was a base of normalcy, a base. The Lashon Chassidus is tikkun, not tayu, not extreme. And it's a very important lesson. It's a very, very important lesson. When you're raising children, and this is true of parents especially, it's true of machanchim. We want our children to be as firm as possible. We want our children to be as chassidish as possible. And we want our children to be as learned as possible. It doesn't happen by itself. You got to push. You have to push. You really have to push. I'm not the guy who believes that the whole be-all and end-all of chinuch is hugging and kissing your children. I don't think hugging and kissing children is chinuch. Hugging and kissing is loving your children. But do you love your children? Only hug him and kiss him. He's going to be nothing. He's going to be a child. You have to push him. But there must always be the foundation. You don't want to raise an Aisav, you want to raise a Yaakov. And I don't mean Aisav the Rosh, I mean Aisav the Tzaddik. Because the Aisav the Tzaddik will become Aisav the Rosh. It's not life. It's not life. And it's a real hero from Parsha's Tail Days that we should understand that when you have a Shabbos meal, a mashal, and you sit around with your children and with your wife, and you don't rush, and you talk Dvarim B'Teilim, and you sing a niggin, you don't sing a niggin. I'm not chas v'shalom, you shouldn't speak lashon hara, but talking about people. You know, you have a good bull session about other human beings. When you finish, you have to take a shower, Pashat. You feel so sewerish. Reden wegen Menschen that never shuffle v'yoser. But you sit with your family and you do what families do. That is kodesh kadoshim. That is holy. It's holy. You know why it's holy? Because it's normal. And the normalcy is what's sustainable. We are an eternal people. Because we're defined by Teferes. We're not defined by Chesed. We're not defined by we're defined by Teferes. We're defined by Yaakov Avinu. And this is the Parsha. Rivka understands that Aisav is a very chsiddish bacher, very chsiddish bacher. Aber nidas, that's a nidik kavane. The kavane is Yaakov Avinu. So I want to say l'chaim. I want to say l'chaim for me and for you. I have children and you have children. Now I have barachim grandchildren. L'chaim lebracha, we should create an environment. You know, a guy once said to me, a guy in Crown Heights. Crown Heights is not Chicago. It's very hard to raise kids in Crown Heights. I'm sure it's hard in Chicago too, but in Crown Heights it's very tough. And a guy said to me, what do I do about my kids? He was very worried. A long time ago. His kids are now grown. So I gave him a simple answer. You want your house to be so inviting and so cool that all your children's friends should come play in your house rather than your children go and play in their home. Because what's going on in your house, you know. What's going on in your neighbor's house, you don't know. You want your house to be the place that the kids want to come to. Not because there's better games, not because there's more gadgets, but because it's inviting. And children gravitate to that. The children don't necessarily go into the home with the best Nintendo. I know Nintendo is like passé. It's like for alter kakes from a different millennia. But whatever Nintendo is called today, I don't know what it is. The kids don't necessarily go into the home with the coolest machines. They go into the home where they feel most welcome. And this is what parents do. This is what they want to create in their home. Not easy, but real. Real. And it can only happen if the Mr. and the Mrs. are on the same page. Everybody, each one of us, that Hashem should bless all of us and all of our children, first of all with health. Pashat begashmi health. And as serious as this is, Pashat mental health, without gesund, without fears, and without anxieties, and without all the other nisyonis that people have that we don't understand, and that other people don't understand. And they should learn. They should learn a lot of Torah. They should know a lot of Torah. And they should be, like the Rebbe said, gesund chasidim. I heard them once, that somebody came into the Rebbetzin on Hey Tevis, Memches, the first Hey Tevis. Someone who was very close to the Rebbetzin. Someone who was very close to the Rebbetzin. Imam Spitz Chabad, a lady from Nishkilik. And she told the Rebbetzin, Good Yom Tov. And the Rebbetzin response was less than enthusiastic. The Rebbetzin did not show the same joy that she felt for that occasion. It was a month before the Rebbetzin passed away, 6 weeks before, 5 weeks before. And she was a bit taken aback by the Rebbetzins lack of reaction. And the Rebbetzin obviously sensed what she said, and I heard two different versions of the story. But one of the versions is, the Rebbetzin said to her, As ba'aich vet sein gut, vet ba'un sein gut. When things by the Chassidim will be good, then by us, by the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin, it will also be good. So it should be good by us and be good by them. L'chaim v'levracha, 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 l'chaim v'levracha.